We are going to be recording this program so that you'll be able to come back later and watch it. And for those who missed, you can refer them to this video so that they can find out more about both our psychology and criminal justice programs. We're also going to provide a way for you to get Tejano passport points so that you'll be able to get a medallion for coming and attending the programs here at EPCC. I'll be putting that in a survey in our chat box so you can provide us some more information. So thank you. And right now we're going to be learning more about our criminal justice program. So I'd like to invite Mr. Brokoff and Mr. Barragan to begin whenever you're ready.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Ms. Sanchez, for inviting us. We're really happy to be able to present. My name is Jeff Brokoff. Myself, along with Mr. Barragan, will give you a presentation today. A little bit about myself. I'm former military. I'm a retired police officer at the city of El Paso, and I've been lucky enough to teach at El Paso Community College now. This is my 9th year. So I'm very happy. I count my blessings every day. I have such a good job. I'll let Mr. Barragan introduce himself in a minute. Let me talk a little bit about our criminal justice program. We are a very student-focused program. We really believe that our success hinges on the success of our students. There's nothing we like more than to see our students come back after they earn their degrees and tell us their success stories, whether they've moved on, earned their bachelor's, master's, whether they've moved into the career field, law enforcement, lawyer, as an attorney, maybe corrections, you name it. We really like to hear how our students have done and the success. A little bit about our program. We offer 5 different degree plans. We have an Associate of Arts in Criminal Justice, which is our most popular degree. About 95% of our students are enrolled in that degree program. One reason for that, it's fully transferable right into UTEP and our other colleges in the area. That means that you can earn your associate's degree in criminal justice, move right over to UTEP, and you're not going to lose any time or credit. So we have a really good working relationship. Same thing, New Mexico State, Park, your other local universities and colleges in the area. We have the Associate of Arts in Criminal Justice, the Associate of Applied Science, which is a criminal justice option. That's a 2-year degree, somebody that's going to move right into the workforce when they earn that degree. We have an Associate of Applied Science in Homeland Security. We have a certificate of completion, a 30-hour certificate in law enforcement, and then we have a certificate of completion in Homeland Security. So we offer a lot of different choices, and it's really up to the student and which degree plan they want to pursue. Something that we're very proud of is annually we're in the top 3 in the number of degrees awarded and also in the top 3 in total enrollment. So we have a lot of interest in our criminal justice program. As I keep moving on here, let me brag a little bit about our instructors. We have 6 full-time instructors, and then we have our part-time instructors. And there's a lot of different diverse backgrounds, different interests within our instructors. And so you're really, when you take our classes with us, you're really going to see a lot of the different aspects of criminal justice, whether it's the police, the courts, or corrections. Again, I have a background in policing. We have backgrounds, Mr. Barragan, retired FBI agent. We have corrections, sheriff's department, you name it. A lot of diverse backgrounds, plus Dr. Mint, she's got her doctorate in education. We have 2 more of our faculty. They're pursuing their doctorates at this time. So we're going to get a lot of, the educational experience and work experience within our program. Right now, I'd like to ask, as I talk a little bit about our program, I'd like to hear if any of you all have questions from us. If you do, just you can just go ahead and raise your hand. A little bit about that Associate of Arts in Criminal Justice. Again, I told you about 95% of our students are enrolled in that program because it's fully transferable throughout the state of Texas. And I can tell you that you're going to get a good broad knowledge of criminal justice when you go through that program. You're going to take an introduction to criminal justice course, which gives you an overall view of the criminal justice system in the United States. And then we're going to start focusing in areas such as police systems, court systems, correctional systems, and criminal law. And those are our 5 core courses you're going to take. And of course, that's a 60-hour associate's degree. What questions do you have of me? I know I'm kind of running through this a little quick, and so I want to hear what you all have to say.
This is Raul Arispe, counselor. Just to add on that, on the certificate program, what's good about the certificate program is that it can build into an associate. So you can do the 2 years, or the 1 year, and then go ahead and finish off the 2-year program. So, and all of the courses that are under the certificate program are also in the Associate of Applied Science program. So that's really good. And
Yes,
the other one, the other thing is on the Associate of Arts, once you finish, you do have an Associate of Arts, and with that program by itself, you can also apply for jobs in with the police departments, and then later on, you can go ahead and finish off the bachelor's degree at UTEP or other universities.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you, sir. And, you know, I can tell you, as a district-wide coordinator, I get a lot of recruiting calls, questions from students. Say, you know, should I come in, earn my 2-year degree, and then start working, or do I wait and earn my bachelor's? And really, it's going to be up to the individual student, you know, where you're at in your life. Some people need to start working pretty quickly. Maybe you have family to take care of. Others, you know, you can move on, earn that bachelor's. And I can tell you that a lot of agencies in the area, that if you do join their agency and you want to continue your education, you know, a lot of them have incentive programs to help you pay for your college. So, you know, I can tell you one thing, in criminal justice, it's very important that you have your education. There's no longer are the days they give you a badge and a gun and say, good luck. You have to be extremely intelligent out there. And so we, you know, all these agencies want you to gain those degrees, and they're going to help you. One thing I will say, as you start looking at different careers, go to those websites and find out what the requirements are. Do I need a 2-year degree? Do I need a bachelor's degree? What type of degrees do they prefer, et cetera? So that way you know going in there exactly what's needed that will help you. Definitely.
One more thing on that with a degree, the more education you have, the higher you start. For example, somebody can start by going right out of high school, and some departments will take you, but then you're going to start at the very bottom. But if you have an associate degree, you don't start at the bottom. You start a little bit higher, and then if you get a bachelor's degree, you start even higher than that. So you can save yourself a lot of time and effort by getting more education.
Definitely. And you know what's nice, I really like about the education is to me, it's all on you. It's all on the student to attain those goals. I myself, coming out of high school, didn't see myself going to college. It really didn't. I didn't think I could do it. Luckily, I joined the military, spent about 5 years active duty, got the GI Bill, and I came out and I realized how important that education was and how proud you can be once you start earning those degrees. So, you know, that's something I always say is you can't take away that education from you, because that is something that you have to achieve on your own. What I'd like to do now, if you don't mind, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Barragan, let him talk a little bit about himself, also about our Criminal Justice Club, and then we can come back and if you all have questions for us. Lou, are you there?
Yeah,
There you
thank
go.
you. Thank you, Mr. Brockhoff. Hello, everybody. My name is Lou Barragan. I am an assistant professor teaching criminal justice and homeland security for El Paso Community College. And It's an honor to be here and addressing you all today. A little background about myself, as Mr. Brockhoff had mentioned. I did have 37 years of law enforcement, criminal justice, homeland security background. I retired from the FBI as a special agent after 26 years. And this teaching just seems like a natural progression for me, in as much as I am hopefully giving back to the next generations in criminal justice, and hopefully encouraging and enabling some of you to pursue a career in this wonderful field. Very satisfying, and I would highly recommend it for everyone if you're interested. What I'm going to talk about a little bit about today that partners up and goes hand in hand with your education, your classes, your courses, your attendance in criminal justice classes is the El Paso Community College Criminal Justice Club. El Paso Criminal Justice Club, EPCC Criminal Justice Club, is an extension of Lambda Alpha Epsilon. This is the national organization, the umbrella organization, if you will, for criminal justice. It's called the American Criminal Justice Association. And so we're very fortunate to be part of that group. If you join the El Paso Criminal Justice Club, EPCC Criminal Justice Club, and you graduate from EPCC and move on to, for example, UTEP, you can still maintain your membership in Lambda Alpha Epsilon, in as much as UTEP has the same organization there. Why join a club? What are the advantages? Why join a club? Other than, of course, if you're one of those individuals that loves that kind of thing, you like as much as you can get on your plate, you love to study, you like your education, you like to be involved, this is a good fit for you. For example, one of the advantages of joining a club is socializing and networking. The other thing you end up learning about are scholarships and possible internships in the criminal justice field here locally. Of course, self-development, right? This also encourages, studies have found that it encourages interest for staying in school. All right. You meet people with the same interests as you. Obviously, you're going to be with fellow students, and you're going to be hopefully pursuing the same goals together, and that helps a lot in this process. How about references, future references? All right. I know some individuals that graduated here from EPCC. They were in the CJ Club, and they moved on to other fields, and they've listed me as a reference. I feel honored to be listed as a reference. And because of their performance, because of their attitude and their contributions to the club, of course, I happily, and I'm sure Mr. Brockhoff has experienced the same, I would happily be a reference for them, let's say, in pursuing some kind of career or profession with an organization. Of course, another advantage is leadership development, and of course, service to El Paso Community College. There are some fundraisers that we do for EPCC, for the club, and some things that we participate in under the Student Government Association Campus Life, and so we participate in that. Another big one that we're fortunate to be involved in, and here again, when I say we, just let me say this first, this is a student club. The students are the members of the club. They're the ones that are the president, the vice president, the members. They're the ones that drive the activities and the ebb and flow of the club. All right. I am an advisor. I try to enable them as much as possible, give them some guidance, but this is definitely a student organization, right? Another big thing that we're involved in, or the club is involved in, is service to the community. A lot of the criminal justice fields, of which Mr. Brockhoff mentioned, there are many. It's not just about wearing a badge and carrying a gun. There are many different types of careers available under criminal justice. A lot of it involves service to the community. That's a big reason, a big motivation why people get involved in this field. And so then service to the community is important. All right. Some of the fun things we do under Criminal Justice Club, of course, is we have guest speakers. We've had guest speakers from the El Paso Police Department, the Sheriff's Office, CBP, USBP, Drug Enforcement Administration, the El Paso Police Department Gang Unit. and so on and so forth. The students had an interest in this, and so therefore they were able to get these guest speakers to come in and talk about careers, talk about what the job involves. We've had guest speakers before with the FBI. One of the ladies we had speak to us was a victim witness specialist. She was a victim specialist, all right? And so very interesting guest speakers. Some of the tours that our club has been involved in has been the El Paso Police Department Academy, the El Paso County Detention Facility, the U.S. Federal Courthouse. The last tour we had at the U.S. Federal Courthouse, the students actually got to sit down with one of the U.S. magistrates there. And the magistrate, of course, talked about what goes on in a federal court. And this magistrate was nice enough to say, hey, look, if you're interested in an internship, contact my office here at the federal courthouse. And so then all these opportunities, things like this are going to arise, are going to come up. Okay. Some of the fun events that we've been involved in is our students have been able to participate in some firearms training at the EPCC Law Enforcement Academy out at the Mission campus. They've also been involved in self-defense training. And we've also gone as far as to go to Babo's and have some fun and just go out there and do some putt-putt golf just as a club, just as club members, just to have a little bit of fun there. Any questions so far? Does anybody have any questions or comment before I move on?
Just to add to that, this is our district counseling. I have found that participation in club activities are very good because of what Mr. Barragan said here, that in terms of making contact with your fellow students, sometimes you'll find out that some of your fellow students are going to be working with you out in the field, and you already know them, so that's going to give you an advantage. The other thing is when you do extra activities like doing community services and things, you need to document everything. Document everything that you do with the club, and document everything that you do with community service, because once you apply for a job, it's much better to apply for a job with more than just your transcript. You'll have your transcript, but if you have documentation of all the things that you have done, then that's going to help the people that are going to select you because they can see that you're a more involved person, that you're not just going to be a criminal justice person, you're not going to be just a policeman, but you're going to be actually working out in the community, providing other kinds of community service.
Excellent comments, Mr. Arispe. I'm sorry, did somebody else have something? No, that's exactly right. You know, you're a go-getter, you get involved, and that's important. And it's in any field you decide to go into, including criminal justice. There's somebody who shows an interest, who's willing to go the extra mile to be involved in a little bit something extra, maybe even do an extra research paper, those kinds of things. As Mr. Arispe can tell you, that shows that you have ganas, okay, that you're willing to do the work and you're willing to do a little bit extra there and get involved in things like a club, something like that. Okay, any other comments or questions there before I move on? And so then what I've got up here on the screen is just a simple pamphlet or brochure that we use. Once you enroll, once you go ahead and if you are interested in the Criminal Justice Club, just talk to one of your professors, whether it's at the Valle Verde campus or whatever campus you're at. Contact that CJ professor or instructor and ask them that you're interested in the club, and then they know how to get in touch with myself, hopefully, or Mr. Valenzuela, Professor Valenzuela, and we'll get you signed up and get you to start to attending the meetings. All right, so it's just that simple. Most of the instructors in the CJ program will actually, when we start recruiting at the beginning of a semester, will put out this brochure and let their students know that this is available to them, all right? And so any questions about that? And so then I want to finish with one item that I think would be important to note. And that was a recent event that we had. In fact, it was just this past Monday. And we went ahead and donated. Sorry, that's not the right one. We went ahead and donated some Easter baskets. The Criminal Justice Club got together with the U.S. Border Patrol. The U.S. Border Patrol was nice enough to put together these Easter baskets, and we donated these baskets to the local Dame la Mano pregnant and battered women's shelter in South El Paso. They were very appreciative. This organization is like a charity organization. They have individuals there that are in transit, that are homeless possibly. There's children involved, and they help out these mothers, and the Criminal Justice Club has been fortunate to have worked with them before and donated toiletries and clothing and Christmas gifts and so on and so forth, even clothes. And so then this was something that is part of that service that you get involved in. And I'm sure many of you are already doing that, maybe through your church or some other way. We've had the students tell us before that they volunteer at food banks, helping with food and so on and so forth. So this is one of those events that we're very proud of. Of course, it's not all about having fun. It's not all about learning CJ, although that's super important. We love doing that. But it's also about giving back to the community. And I think this is something that you can take pride in. And as Mr. Arispe told you, this is something that looks good on that resume. So it's something to keep in mind. All right. Anybody have any questions on that, on this event?
Lou, if you don't mind, can I jump in real quick?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is Mr. Brokoff again. Something I want to do, I just want to recognize Mr. Barragan and the club for all the work they have done this year. I don't know if anybody paid attention to the news over the holidays or not, but the Criminal Justice Club actually donated, what was it, over 100 meals at UMC to the nurses and doctors. Is that correct, Lou?
That is correct. Yeah, that was something that took place back in late November, early December. Correct.
Yeah, so the club is always busy, and I can tell you they have a lot of fun. Again, the different events, I know they love going out to the firearms safety training out at the Mission Del Paso campus. I know they love, being able to participate in the different events. So it's a great way to strengthen your criminal justice degree and career with us. Something I wanted to mention that I didn't mention earlier is our criminal justice classes are offered at all of our campuses throughout the city. Also, of course, online right now, which all of our classes are online. And we're hoping right in the fall to get back at least 50% to the classroom. And so I know we're all anxious to get back. And I'm from talking to the students, I know they're anxious too. And so we really hope to see you all, definitely. So right now I'd like to open it up to questions. We've got questions for us. You can, if you want to raise your hand or however you want to do it, we'll gladly field any questions you all have.
Gail, go ahead. Kristen, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's great. And thank you for your club. That's wonderful that you all are getting out in the community. Thank you for doing that. I have a question. So I see on the degree plans that you have an option of an associate's degree, an associate's of applied science, and even a homeland security. Could you tell me a little bit about what you can do with each of those and what kind of careers that you could be looking at with those?
Sure. Again, our Associate of Arts degree in criminal justice, really that's meant to be a transfer degree. Somebody's going to come in, earn their Associate of Arts, and move on towards a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. It's a 60-hour program. Whereas our Associate of Applied Science in criminal justice and homeland security, their Associate of Applied Science means they're more workforce related. They're for students that want to come in, earn that 2-year degree, and go directly into the workforce, whether it's U.S. Customs, Border Patrol, police, etc. The only, they're wonderful degrees. The only thing I say is, a lot of students, they earn that associate's and say, oh, that's it, I'm done. Well, no, you're never done. We want you to continue, get those bachelors, get your masters, whatever it is. And so really it's going to be the degree that's going to best fit you at the time. The Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice, it's going to offer more courses that are criminal justice related, such as juvenile justice, criminal investigations, introduction to Homeland Security. So you're going to get a little broader base. Also, we have a criminology course in there they can take. Same thing, your Associate of Applied Science for Homeland Security. We offer 4 Homeland Security courses in there. So a lot of times our students who may be looking at federal law enforcement, such as U.S. Customs, U.S. Border Patrol, they may come in and take that Associate of Applied Science where they can get some direct course relationships towards federal law enforcement service. And of course, then we have our certificates, which, like Mr. Arizpe said, they're going to flow directly into those Associate of Applied Science. So oftentimes we'll get somebody that maybe they want to start their criminal justice career with that certificate, and then they realize, oh, I want to move in, I want to earn that 2-year degree, and so it's going to flow directly in there. A lot of times, those certificates, students will take those where they can move straight into the law enforcement field per se, such as, maybe the sheriff's department, depending on the number of hours they require. The police department requires at least 12 hours to apply. So some students will come in and earn these certificates where they can move directly into that occupation. But of course, we don't want you just to stop there. We want you to earn those associates, earn your bachelor's, earn your master's, whatever it is. We want you to be proud of that educational journey you're going to take. Mr. Risby, did you have something to add to that?
Yes, just to add on to that, as you know, as you have seen currently in the news, the law enforcement, all the law enforcement agencies are being put on notice in terms of how they act towards the people that they are supposed to serve. The theme has always been to provide service, right, and security to everyone. So right now, when the training that you're going to get, probably even in the courses you're going to take with us, are going to focus a lot on that, on how you're supposed to use your own intelligence in terms of how you handle the people that you're protecting. The first idea is to protect people. The next thing is if you have to use force, well, to use the right kind of force and things like that. But those things are going to be much more important as time goes on, and the whole field of criminal justice and the people that work there are going to have much more and more responsibility, and all of you are going to be under the microscope, because all of your actions are going to be recorded, and you need to be very aware of the actions you're taking and what the consequences can be. Hello?
Definitely. And that education is going to help you. I can tell you, and this is Mr. Brokoff, I can tell you right now in my police systems class, I have my students viewing some use of force scenarios. They have to distinguish, after researching and studying about the use of force and use of deadly force and excessive force, they have to be able to answer these scenarios on what they would do. And so it's really given them a good experience to see. On television, it's easy, right? You shoot the bad guy in the foot or something like that, and that's it. But in real life, we know it's not that easy, and you have to make some split-second decisions that may, save your life or may cost somebody their life, depending on, what the situation is. So we like to get in and delve into those areas and talk about them and kind of get behind the reasoning for these different events and, how you can handle them. So it's definitely going to help you as you move towards that career.
Yeah, as you go on in your career, this field is going to be much more and more professionally directed. So that means that all of your training is going to be increased, and your ability to think on the moment and make decisions is going to be very critical. I think also if you can take like a course in ethics here at the college, I'm not sure. Yeah, it would be included under the language, philosophy, and culture. I think the course in ethics would be an excellent course for you to take.
Sir, and something I always talk about and I reiterate with my students, you're going into a public service career if that's what you're after. And guess what? You have the ability to make a difference. I think, in my policing career, that's one big thing I really learned. You have the ability to make a difference in people's lives. And I think that's something that you should cherish with this type of profession. You have a question, Ms. Sanchez?
Yes, I have another question. Talking about the careers themselves. So looking locally, what is the job market like here in El Paso? And also talking transferability. You start off in El Paso. Can you transfer, depending, I guess, on your department that you're with, to another state, another city? How does that work?
Well, for instance, like policing, the state of New Mexico, their retirement system is built to where, if you start in Las Cruces and transfer to Santa Fe, your retirement moves with you. In Texas, your license is good throughout the entire state, but your pension may not move with you. You may have to start over. But what is good though is that license is good everywhere. Texas is really acknowledged at the forefront of their police academies. And I know like the Mission del Paso campus has a police academy, and there are a lot of different agencies throughout the state of Texas, New Mexico, and Colorado come in looking for those students. They're highly marketable. So really, it's going to depend on what type of career you're after as far as transferability. Your license is probably going to transfer, but your retirement may not. But of course, something that's really nice about these public service jobs is they do offer those retirements at 20, 25 years, plus medical, education. So there's a lot of benefits besides helping people that you can also help yourself and your family.
Yes, and to add to that, right now, considering the influx of immigrants and the killings that have been going on nationwide and changes in law enforcement, right now there's a very big emphasis in law enforcement nationally. So that means that the government is investing a whole lot of money in supporting policemen, law enforcement people across the board. So that means that more and more jobs are going to be made available. And they're very good jobs because they have good benefits.
And, being on the border, that means we have a very large police agency here. We have a large sheriff's department, plus we have all of your federal jobs, just like Mr. Risbe reiterated. We have customs, border patrol, you name it. We have a lot of different opportunities here in law enforcement. So, it's a pretty good area if that's, your passion. And I can tell you, it's got to be a passion that you want to go into that type of career, because sometimes it's not the easiest. Lou, do you have anything to add on that?
No, actually, I think you covered it there, Jeff. As I said, remember that CJ, criminal justice, there's literally maybe a couple hundred different careers you can go. Remember that law enforcement is one subsystem of criminal justice. You have courts, you have law enforcement, and you have corrections. So there's a niche for everybody in there. You don't want to wear a badge and carry a gun, that's fine. You can still have a very fulfilling, exciting career in criminal justice. And there's several different ways you can go with that. Criminal psychologist, defense attorney, parole officer, probation officer, corrections officer, a juvenile advocate, a victim specialist, and so on and so forth. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Court reporter, prosecutor, as I mentioned, there's a lot of different ways to go.
Thank you all. Thank you so much for this presentation. It's really great information. So who would be the best person to contact if a student's watching this and wants to find out more information about a career?
Well, I'm the district-wide coordinator. Can you bring that poster back up, ma'am?
Sure.
Okay, and it'll have my contact information on there. Again, I get a lot of recruiting calls, emails from potential students. And so, if you have any questions, give me a call. Again, my direct number, you can reach me at 831-4247. Or if you can see my email address there, it's jbroccho@epcc.edu. If you look at their criminal justice page on the website, you'll also see that contact information there, and I'll gladly assist you with whatever questions you may have.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Mr. Brockhoff and Mr. Barragan. I appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for inviting us.
Sure, thank you.
My
And
pleasure.
so now we're going to, yes, of course, thank you. And so now we're going to be moving into another field of study that we have here at El Paso Community College. We have with us today Mr. Carlos Vargas, who is an assistant professor of psychology, and he's going to be talking to you about the psychology discipline. Mr. Vargas, there you are. So please go ahead whenever you're ready.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I was listening to the fantastic presentation by the Criminal Justice Department, and good to see some of you. Lou, Mr. Arcipe, I know some of you have seen him before. And I apologize, I should have invited other instructors, but I had prepared the presentation on my end. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about our field. And good to see you, Louis. So I was just going to talk a little bit about what psychology, what our field is like. So first, to begin, my name is Carlos Vargas, and I'm the district-wide, right now, coordinator. I'll be in for the rest of this academic year, and then by next semester, we'll have Mr. Rudy Hernandez. But by all means, there's my email. Any information or any question that you may have on our field, by all means, I'm more than happy to always help out. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what our field is and the misconceptions that exist in our field and the realities of our field. So to begin, the concept of psychology tends to be misunderstood a bit based on what is the general assumption for what is seen in the movies or what is seen in novels or what is seen in the popular media. Very often when people ask us, what do? We tell them that we study psychology. There's a misconception that we have this going on, that we can read minds. And that a lot of us have our own private offices with a red couch where we have people laying in there and we start to always ask them about their dreams and so forth. Like, there's this kind of stereotype that exists on what psychology is, but our field is broader than that. Our field is not really about reading minds. Our field is not entirely about providing therapy. The field in itself is bigger than that. And as we actually talk a little bit about what the field is like, I just wanted to give you like a brief introduction into where our field began. And like major or more of the modern sciences that exist in our society, the roots of psychology can be traced back to the times of ancient Greece. So like medicine, physics, biology, and more, psychology emerged within the interest of ancient Greek philosophers. And the study of the mind didn't really properly formalize until the 19th century. But overall, the concept of an interest in the mind had been around for centuries. And some of the ideas that philosophers would debate would be, for example, the concept of a purpose in life, the concept of intelligence, the concept of memory, even the concept of happiness, life fulfillment. There were a lot of questions, broad questions about life, broad questions about the mind, broad questions about behavior, and it was explored from a philosophical standpoint. But the actual field began to take shape, and for most of us, really the individual that stands out as being the first one that actually kind of envisioned the field and became, in a way, the founder of the field began in 1879 in Germany, and is Professor Wilhelm Wundt. What Professor Wundt did is that he created the first formal study of the mind. And specifically, he created the first psychology laboratory, and this was in the University of Leipzig in Germany. And this professor also not only created the first lab in the history of psychology, but also began to provide the first lecture in the history of psychology. So unofficially, you can say that he founded our field. And the question that he had specifically was how fast we could react to a sound by clicking on a button that was on a table. And he specifically wanted to study what was called the atoms of the mind. The field of psychology officially began then. However, although our field began in Leipzig, Germany, what made the field popular traces back to a very famous individual who's perhaps one of the most, if not the most famous psychologist of all time. And it's a person that took the lessons from psychology and made them popular. This individual is quite famous in the history of our field, and it's called Sigmund Freud. A lot of people mistakenly assume that Freud is the father of the field of psychology, but he's not. He was just able to revolutionize the field with kind of the lessons of psychology to be conducted as a type of therapy, which then was called psychoanalysis. So in our field, there is a stereotype. I'm going to go back so you can see the stereotype that we can read minds, and the stereotype that we all have a red couch where we have people in there laying down telling us about their dreams. That is because there's still the stereotype connected to what Sigmund Freud used to do. The field of psychology became popular due to this work, but the field of psychology has evolved since then. So still up to this day, and I'm not sure Mr. Arcipe, if he's still listening to us, might agree with me, but a lot of students come into psychology still assuming that our field does what Mr. Freud used to do.
Yeah, just to add a little bit to that, thank you. And it's Arispe, but it's Arispe, by the way.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
It's Arispe, it's okay. No, one of the things that I always like to stress, because I always teach psychology myself since I'm a counselor, but what I always say is that all of these individuals that Mr. Vargas is talking about were people like you and me. The difference between them and you and me is that they paid attention to behavior. And because of the attention that they paid to behavior or to circumstances, they came up with theories. Most of the theories of psychology are basically ideas that these people had about how people behave and how they develop. So, and I tell them, one of the things that I always like to stress is that just like them, you as students can also make assumptions about how people believe and how they develop, and you can create your own analysis of how psychology is because of your observations. So your observations are just as important as the observations that were made before. And the other thing that I like to stress in psychology is that as you're learning about the different theories, you can see the kinds of behaviors that are attended to in each one of those theories, and you can kind of compare yourself to those things so that you can learn about how to modify your own behavior so that you can work better in society. I always like to stress that the other name of psychology, which is behavior modification, and I like to stress that once you learn what behavior modification means, it means exactly that. That if you don't like the behavior that you're exhibiting or you want to improve it, then you modify it, you change it, and you have the power to change it. So that's what I like about psychology, that it's very personal and it can be very, very useful in your own development.
Definitely. Actually, I was reading an article a couple days ago about how there has been an increase in people seeking counseling services for the effect that the pandemic and the quarantine had on people. And there's been actually across the nation, an increase of people seeking services. And we're here to try to provide help. So our field is divided overall, and I'm going into the next slide, is overall divided into two main areas, which is the research side of it. So we're trying to understand a little bit more about behavior, a little bit more about mental processes. And it's also about providing the lessons so we can hopefully help people. And that's the second branch, which is applied psychology. And it can take different shapes, different forms. And indeed, the founders were the people that overall kind of gave us the starting point for our field. And since then, the field has exploded and we got a lot of different branches where we can extend. So there's a lot of famous psychologists out there, but I do want to talk a little bit about the different fields that exist in psychology. So if you were to earn a degree in psychology, in essence, it's giving you a very broad overview of everything that psychology is related. So there's a lot of different branches where psychology extends. Psychology can extend into basic research, which is pure science, trying to build on the knowledge that we would have on behavior and mental processes. So it can be research on developmental, like how kids think differently, or how does kids' behavior differ? Well, how does kids' behavior differ from that of adolescence? How could the adulthood years serve as a foundation for what's going to happen mentally through the late adulthood years and so forth? Cognition, trying to understand mental processes like intelligence, like memory, personality, understanding the person that you are, understanding specifically if you are the kind of person that always likes to be quite sociable. How is that different from a person that likes to be at home, like the introversion? How does the groups affect our behavior? Why, if we don't feel like doing something in ourselves, we get the peer pressure and then we feel compelled that we had to do it? That's the effect of the social group. Neuroscience specifically, how does our chemicals in our brain affect our behavior and so forth? So we also can use applied research in psychology. There's a lot of branches where you can extend, and I'll talk a little bit about that in the next slide so you can see some pictures. There can be counseling, like Mr. Arispe. Counseling assists people with problems living and achieving a greater well-being, and there's different branches even within counseling. These are just some of them. Clinical, assessing and treating people with psychological disorders. Therapy can be inpatient, outpatient, and then there's a branch of medicine, which is psychiatry. And even within psychiatry, it can divide into different areas. So you may specifically help a specific age group, or you may specialize in specific disorders, and so forth. So the field can extend, and saying that you can have 10 psychology majors, and all 10 of them may go into different branches. Some of them may do research, neuroscience, they may do social, they may do business, they may work with children, or they may work in statistics. There can be a lot of different branches where you can extend and say that you wanted to go into research. And psychology majors can all extend into 10 different branches. Same goes if you would like to be into counseling, clinical, psychiatry. Depends a lot on your skills, depends a lot on what you feel motivated, or what you feel your skill is at. You may end up counseling, you may specialize in the different branches of counseling, and here maybe I can actually bring out Mr. Arispe again. As a counselor, you could maybe talk to us a little bit about the different branches where you can extend in counseling.
Sure. Well, counseling is very, very broad, and also depends, well, it depends on a couple of things. It depends, number one, on the training that you have and where you got your counseling training. That's one thing. Then, of course, the other one has to do with the institution that you're working with. Here at the college, at the beginning, when we started way back in the day in the 70s, 60s, 70s, we were doing a lot of different kinds of counseling, including personal social counseling. But then later on, the college kind of got away from it. But some of us in the counseling center still do personal social counseling, which means that if you have something that you're being faced with, some idea or problem or situation that you're having difficulty handling, we can talk to you about it. We're not a psychiatrist or a clinician, and we don't do long-term counseling, but we do short-term counseling. And once we get to a certain point, if we can't handle it, we can also always tell you where to go. We have a lot of resources in the city that have extended counseling services, but we do that. And then of course we do the advising, and we help you select courses, and we help you transfer to different professional programs all throughout the United States. One thing that I want to stress with you guys here is that the El Paso Community College is a top 10 unit college. That means that out of 6,000 colleges in the nation, we're in the top 10. So that means you're getting a very, very good education, and your education is not only transferable in Texas, it's transferable nationwide. So that's something that you should be really proud of, and that you need to understand that all your courses here count pretty much nationally everywhere you go.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. So it's a broad field, and stating that you are, as a psychology major, trained to do one thing is a misconception for what the field offers. The field is very broad, and even if you say that you want to go into one specific area like counseling, even within counseling, you can specialize across a lot of different areas, a lot of different functions, as it was told by Mr. Arispe, I'm sorry. Some of the things that may affect, for example, is the skills, the training, the places where you want to work. And overall, again, is the skill that you feel like you have. So it can really extend to a lot of variety. So here's some data. Psychology today overall can extend into professions in different areas: research, clinical, educational, government, social work, industrial organizational. There's even psychology of engineering. So there's specific, for example, you think of those of you, if you have a cell phone, and you think of why sometimes your cell phone can be so addictive in regards to how the applications seem to be calling you to respond right away. That's the work of psychologists behind that. If you think even of something as simple as a control remote, knowing where you're supposed to click and memorizing where your finger is supposed to go, that kind of muscle memory is not by accident. It's something that was planned and designed before, and that's actually the work of psychologists as well. So even in all that type of design, you see a lot of work behind psychology. Sometimes psychology students are surprised by what kind of things they can do with their major, what kind of areas they can specialize in. A couple weeks ago, I had a conversation with a student who told me that she was very interested in photography. So even in photograph, if you want to dedicate yourself to be a professional photographer, you can even incorporate the lessons of psychology, so you understand specifically as far as perception, what helps stand out, what colors, what mood, how can you affect to make sure that you get more viewership. All those things can also be connected to what you can do with the field. And there are different educational levels, such as an associate degree, a bachelor's, master's, PhD, PsyD, MD. So through the college, you can earn an associate's degree in psychology, but the recommendation is always to keep pushing your education forward. With an associate's degree, you can find the work, but the employment options would not be as broad as if you had your bachelor's. But of course, the options for employment are going to be even bigger if you get your master's, and of course, better if you get your PhD. So we always want to push students forward to go to at least try to attain a master's. And the potential salary, and this really varies a lot depending on the location and the place where you would be working, and there's a lot of variability, but the potential salary can range anything from $24,000 to $82,000. I heard that there was somebody typing in the chat, so I don't know if there's a question there. Okay, I'm sorry. The kind of salaries range broadly, and also depends a lot on the location and the spot and the place where you live. As a clinical psychologist, you can even be well into the 100,000 per year, and it really varies a lot. If you go into the branch of medicine, you can think of higher salaries than that. So it really depends on the branch that you plan to work in. And in your college, see if I can share my screen again.
Looks like you got disconnected. He got disconnected.
Yeah, it looks like the Wi-Fi probably got a little weak. Mr. Arispe, while he's reconnecting, can you talk a little bit before the
Sure.
AA and the AS degrees, like what kind of jobs you can go into with the different?
Okay, sure. With the Associate of Arts, there are a lot of, actually, a whole bunch of community service agencies that you can go into. And they will take you with an associate degree, because what you need to understand is that education is valued, and people value the fact that you have an associate degree. So once you have your associate degree in psychology, you can use it in any kind of social service agency. You can go to, actually, you can work in the police department, you can work in hospitals and all kinds of areas. Then, of course, once you have that job, then you could even talk to people in that place where you're working in the hospital, or the police department, or wherever, and you can ask them to help you pay for the rest of it. That means going and getting your other degree, your bachelor's degree, because really in psychology, the more education you have, the better off you're going to be. And even though it's good to have an associate degree, it's much better to have higher degrees, because even though your services are very valuable considering human needs, unfortunately, people in society don't value serving other people, and they don't pay you as much as you should be paid. But I think as time goes on, people will understand that more and more, and they will understand the value of helping others, and the pay is going to increase. I predict that the pay in psychology is going to be better and better as time goes on.
Yeah, I agree. I apologize. It kicked me out for a little bit, but I agree, definitely. And what it's also traced based on data, on national data, employment in psychology is actually increasing. So there's more and more opportunities available. And like the same thing, I mean, we totally support you all to seek and extend your education further. If you were to make a career in psychology, typically the best way to actually make a really good, solid living is to go in for a master's at least. Go in for a master's. And it's a great career. It's a great career. It's a great living. In psychology, here we have classes on introduction, statistics, social, human, sexuality, personality, adjustment, abnormal, human growth, and psychobiology. And each one has a different purpose. Overall, like we said, is not tailored at making you specialize in anything with your associates or your bachelors. It's about giving you an overall understanding of what the whole field is of, and then your area of specialization would come up with your master's degree. We do have external programs in the college as well. We have the History of Psychology in Europe, which is a study abroad program. We have the Psychology Club. We have Teen Survivor, which is a little bit more hands-on about providing community services. We have counseling service, and we have building pathways programs. And we're here to help you out. And would you have any comments or any questions that we could answer on this end? Anything else that you would like to add, Mr. Arispe?
Yeah, just if you're curious about where to work in El Paso, you can just type in and Google social service agencies, and you're going to be surprised how many social service agencies there are in El Paso. And most of them will take you with an associate degree. And the great thing about that is that once you start working, then within that agency, you can grow by continuing your education, and you can end up being the person in charge of that particular agency.
Yeah. On a personal note, actually, I always share the story about how I finished my master's. I defended my master's on a Wednesday, and then on a Saturday I walked. I got an interview on a Friday, and I received a call to say that I got the employment on a Tuesday. Like I was unemployed for 3 days. Like there's work, there's job out there, and I haven't stopped since. That was my first job as a professional in psychology. and I haven't stopped since. There is job out there, so there is work, so for sure. And anything that we can do to help you, we're here to help you.
Sometimes you can create your own job. Like when I was studying in Michigan State University, and when I started there, they were recruiting minorities to go to study Michigan State. And what we found out real quick was that in Michigan, right there in the next door in Lansing, there was a lot of Mexican Americans who lived there, and the university didn't even know. So once we made the university aware of how many Mexican Americans lived right next door, they hired. There were two of us that came from Texas to study there, and they hired us to recruit students and to counsel them. So I had my first job in counseling before I even finished my counseling degree. So but sometimes you have to talk to people, you know, you have to convince them that there's something that you have to offer. And ever since then, I've been working in colleges and universities doing support services for students.
Definitely, initiative would always take you to great places. So initiative is always good. And indeed, even on a professional level, I've had experiences like that as well, where I looking out, asking to people, talking to people, then opportunities open, and it's wonderful to how many places can you go with it, for sure. Anything else that we can? Any question that we can answer? Any comments? Okay, Ms. Sanchez.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Vargas. And how can they get in touch with you if they have any questions? Who would be the best way to get started if they are interested in getting into psychology as a career? Who would be the best contact?
For the rest of the academic year, I'll remain as district-wide coordinator. So I wrote my email on the chat. By all means, you can always contact me. By the end of the academic year, by August, Mr. Rudy Hernandez will take over me. But at least from now on until the rest of the summer, by all means, and you can save my email, and you can always reach me even long after I'm no longer the coordinator for the discipline. And gladly, I can also point you out to who you should talk to. At least for now, for the whole discipline, you can contact me for any questions.
Great. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your presentation, and Mr. Arispe for being here. And I also invite everyone to look in your chat. I have put in the app for the Tejano Passport Points, so you can earn points towards your medallion, as well as a survey that you can take for today's presentations. Next week, we're going to be having a presentation on Wednesday on how to build marketable skills. And then on Friday, we're going to have a career workshop on biology and culinary arts programs. So thank you all again for being here, for our presenters, and hope you all have a good weekend and stay safe. Take care.
Thank you for organizing this and getting us involved.
Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation as well. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.